Hi, and welcome to Chief for Yourself. It is great to have you with us wherever you are in the world today. Our guest on the show has practiced yoga and meditation for more than 30 years. In 2006, Peter Sklivas created Hot Core Yoga, combining hot yoga with body mechanics, breathing, and spiritual awareness. But Peter is also an author. His first spiritual novel is called The Secret of Enduring Love, Yoga Romance of Damayanti and Nala, 21st century retelling of an ancient Vedic text tale from India. And Peter, I guess the best place to start it is right at the beginning. Let's talk about the main characters here, Damayanti and Nala, and what is their place in the story. If you want to set this up for us.
Sure. Well, let's start in the classic telling. Prince Nala grabs a swan who has strayed from his mate, and he is so enchanted by the swan's beauty that he doesn't want to let the swan go. But the swan says, "You have to let me go back to my mate because we're destined to be with each other." And so in the classic telling, Nala says, "Okay, well, I can't let you go. You'll have to stay with me." And the swan says, "Well, if I work it out so the most beautiful princess in the land falls in love with you, will you let me go then?" And Nala says, "Okay, well, that's a deal." And I decided what would happen if Princess Damayanti grabbed the swan, and if the swan were female instead of male, how would it have been different? And so what Damayanti does is she puts the swan down when the swan, kind of orders her to, and the swan asks her, "What is it you wanted, princess?" And Princess Damayanti says, "Well, I want to know the secret of enduring love. And I know that swans know the secret. Will you teach me?" And the swan says, "Wow, well, you show wisdom beyond your years, because you didn't ask me to find your perfect beloved for you. You asked to learn the secret of enduring love. And in order to do that, you'll have to learn yoga. You'll have to learn how to open your own inner gateways. You'll have to learn about the nature of love." And the princess says, "That's great, because that's what I want to understand. That's what I want to learn." And it opens up this adventure for the princess to learn about herself, but also to learn about the nature of the world. And Prince Nala is the beloved with whom she makes her destiny, and she doesn't know that at the beginning, but the journey leads her to this prince, and all the adventures that ensue for them to keep their love growing and alive.
Now, we talk about opening up gateways. Are we talking chakras here?
Well, as a writer of fiction, I use the term gateways because I want people to be able to have their own interpretation of what a gateway is. But yes, on a literal terms, it is the opening up of the chakras, and the book is broken up into 7 gateways, which correspond to the 7 chakras.
All right, now segueing from chakras, let's go on to karma. Did this have anything to do, the two of them meeting up, Damayanti and Nala? Is that karma, or is there choice involved? Where does that come into play?
Well, it's absolutely karma, because the two of them have had past lives together, and they're unaware of that. But there is a kind of alchemical connection, which neither one of them is conscious of at the time of their meeting. But there's this energetic bond, an energetic vibrance, which happens for them. And, I don't know about you, John, but I've certainly felt that at times when I've met people in my life,
mm-hmm.
that sometimes there's just this, it's like a reaction that happens, where I find myself immediately feeling like I've known someone for a long time when I may have only met them a few days earlier.
Yeah. Mm. Mm. Well, Today we find more and more women coming into the knowing of the divine feminine, and I think Dami a great example of this. What message does she have for women or for girls in today's times?
That's a great question, John. And it's not just for women. The awakening of the divine feminine is for all of us. But, you know, if we look around us, in most of the yoga studios, most of the places of spiritual practice and spiritual awakening, there does tend to be more women who are actually doing the practice than men. And so the message of this book is to really demonstrate how to peel away the illusions of romance and love in order to understand that it starts with loving ourselves. And how do we do that? How do we love ourselves? It's easy to say the words. What this princess does is she uses tools of yoga, including the repetition of a mantra, which her guru gives her, and it's in the book. And so when you apply the spirituals of authentic disciplines, and you do them with an earnest intention, you will learn how to love yourself more fully and see when illusions are clouding your judgment. And that makes it much easier to express love and also to receive love.
The book was inspired by, of course, an ancient tale, but you kept some of the ancient and brought it into the here and now. How did you determine what was going to be, shall we say, modernized and what was going to be kept in the original text?
Well, I wrote this book, John, in India, at an ashram along the Ganges River in Rishikesh, India, which is north of Delhi in the foothills of the Himalayas. And I believe that there is an intelligence in the Ganges River that I acted as a scribe. And my job was to ask the characters questions in the story and then listen closely. And I feel like the Ganges River acted as this conduit so that I could hear the characters in the story and write down whatever it was that I heard. And in a way, it was very frustrating because I could only go to India for a month at a time, and then I'd come back to the United States thinking, well, I'll keep writing it. And I could never do anything other than edit the book when I was here in the United States. And then a couple of years had passed because I operate a yoga studio, and then I'd go back to India and I'd keep writing. And all the original material happened seated along the banks of the Ganges River. And my final trip, I wrote 70,000 original words in about 2 weeks. And I actually completed the book on my 50th birthday, which was, for me, the best gift I ever received. So in terms of deciding which of the original to keep in the book and which to depart, well, there were certain elements from the original that I knew I wanted to keep that are, there's one section called Indra's Test, where Lord Indra, who is the god of heaven, tests Damayanti in the very moment when she chooses her beloved. You see, in ancient India, there's a ritual called a Swayamvara. And in a Swayamvara, a female, a princess, walks a line of suitors, males, who have been trying to present themselves to the princess in different ways through tournaments of showing their prowess with a sword or with a bow and arrow, or this sort of thing. Mm-hmm. And in the very moment when she wants to choose Nala, she walks up to him, but instead of one Prince Nala, she sees 5 identical Prince Nalas, because the gods have shape-shifted. 4 of them have shape-shifted into identical images of Nala, and she has to find out which is the real Nala. Well, that's definitely in the novel, and that's definitely authentic to the versions that I've read. And by the way, there are multiple different versions of the telling of this story, and in every version there are slight nuanced differences. I also kept the names of characters and did a lot of research to find English translations of this story.
Now, Nala also has a very real weakness, one of gambling, and this is exploited by Kala, the god of time. Why Kala? Well, maybe I should let you set that up first on how Kala jumps in and sort of has a part in this, because he's obviously very taken by Damayanti himself.
He is smitten by Damayanti, and you mentioned karma. This is really where in our culture there can frequently be a sense that when we do something that is wrong, when we commit, when we do something to someone else that where we feel like we have to make amends. In the Vedic way of looking at it, sometimes it can take a few lifetimes before we can settle a score. And by settle a score, I don't necessarily mean that we have to perform some act of penance, but we have to take actions to correct the wrong from the past. And so Kala, as the god of time, is acting as an agent to give both Prince Nala and Princess Damayanti a chance to correct a wrong from the past, of which they are not consciously aware. And he cannot tell them what they did in the past, but they have to discover it, and through their actions make amends. And so this is a big part of what the story is. And so it's a story of redemption and the awakening of love through these acts of redemption. The quality of love, that's when the quality of love takes on a quality that you could call it enduring, this enduring love.
Well, certainly through the process, a lot of questions are asked, and I'm wondering, is it possible to, and to bring this into the here and now again, is it possible to overanalyze a relationship? Where do you leave off with your visceral feeling and take up the logical questions? I mean, there has to be kind of a balance. Obviously, you want to know who you're dealing with when you choose a partner, but how much of it is really gut feeling? What do you think about that?
Well, I think a lot of it's gut feeling. That's been my experience in my life. And there's also an element that I would say to it where there's shared mutual interest in relationships that endure. So you can have chemistry. You can have that kind of gut feeling. But if you don't have shared mutual interest, both in terms of, there's interest, and then there are also values. How do your values get embodied in your life? We all value the truth, but what does that mean? And so when people, and that's what you learn when you develop a friendship with someone, when you communicate with someone about life, and you get the sense, this person's values really complement mine, or this person's values just really are so different from me that I don't really feel like I can get that close to somebody because I don't trust them, or it just doesn't feel like the right match.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And so there is a balance between trusting the gut and the intuition, and also keeping our cognitive sense within us. And in our culture, sometimes we let too much of it just be, a chemical reaction, or we're just totally just smitten with someone's physical form, or other elements that don't really tell us, what are the core beliefs of this person, and how can we grow together in ways that complement what we most want to create in our life.
Well, certainly the relationship, the main relationship in our lives are very important, and Damayanti, being a person of privilege, obviously had more time, more resources to suss this out. Today, with all of the media influence, what does a person look to, or do you look outside for any kind of help or guidance? Is it strictly an inside job?
Well, if it's strictly an inside job, most of us are going to be very frustrated. It's actually not even possible to have strictly an inside job. We're all going to be influenced by television. We're going to be influenced by our friendships in school and what we call our authority figures, whether it's our parents or school teachers or entertainers even. And the thing of it is that if we do not consciously choose our authority figures, they will be unconsciously chosen for us. For me in my own life, my parents were two wonderful people who really didn't have a clue about how to create enduring love between themselves. My parents got divorced when I was 13 years old, and so and in my own neighborhood, I really didn't feel like they were individuals who were the parents of my friends, but they were really in love with each other. It seemed like most of the parents were just pretending, almost like business partners, really, in the business of having a family. And for me, as I grew up, I gravitated toward spiritual teachers who had a love for God that felt real to me, that had some quality of purity and truth. And so the love of God, which in our culture is not always, it may be talked about, but what are the tools to actually doing it? Well, that's what a good teacher or way shower, I believe, should do for someone. Provide them with tools so that they can make this discovery themselves.
When I go back to the divine feminine, I'm wondering now, stories like this, especially based in India, and looking at the conditions of women around the world, including India, are stories like this resurfacing there, and are girls taking from that to sort of right the ship and maybe right some of the wrongs that have been going on for so long in their land?
I believe that's the time we're living in, John, right now. And I believe that the rebalancing of our planet is going to happen through this awakening of the divine feminine. Is it easy? Well, I think when you look around, we all are creating different aspects of reality. Some people are going to find embracing the divine feminine easier than others. And some are going. We're all going to have our different challenges. And if we look in the news, we can certainly see aspects and stories of women who are having a really tough time in having their rights respected. And at the same time, there are also women who are right out there and taking actions that are leading the way. And so I take inspiration from that. Many of my spiritual teachers have been women as well as men. But, and so, and there is a great tradition in India of respecting the mother as being as sacred as the guru, and what a mother, the authority that a mother holds in a family as being sacrosanct.
Would you like to read that passage at this point?
Sure.
I know you wanted to read this from the book, so go ahead and do that.
Yes, the passage. I'll set it up a little bit first. This is the passage, the time in the story when Princess Damayanti is about to descend from the royal box down to the field, where she is going to take the lotus garland and walk along the lines of suitors, the men, the warriors, and kings and princes who are presenting themselves as suitors for her to choose her future husband. And so this section is called Lotus Garland Anyone. From the royal box, the princess emerged to a thunderous avalanche of 100,000 cheers. Upon a crystal stairway of such purity that it was rendered invisible, Damayanti walked down as though she was the emissary of love, descending to earth. Every element in the amphitheater had been designed by Vishwakarma to highlight the effect of making it seem as though Damayanti was floating down from heaven, and it worked. From the deity section in the box seats, a buzz of euphoria from goddesses and apsaras, that's celestial nymphs, spread throughout the amphitheater. Women fainted into the arms of men. Meanwhile, men could only fasten their gaze upon one part of Damayanti's body. To see more of the princess at any one time was simply too much to absorb. Some were mesmerized by the rays of light shooting from Damayanti's golden eyes. Others were transported along the curving waves of her long black hair. Her modest smile flashed more than enough brilliance to win over those individuals who were fascinated by solving riddles. Which goddess was incarnated in this heavenly princess who was descending into their realm? Many times this question had been asked of Damayanti, but never by 100,000 minds in one place, including her own father and mother. As Bhavani had declared over and over ad nauseam before today, the princess, the Swayamvara, was the time for Damayanti to shine brightly in the moment. And shine she did. Damayanti's wedding dress had been designed by the ravishing Tapasvini, who was the one apsara in attendance whose beauty most closely rivaled the princess. Some might even say eclipsed Damayanti. Hidden among the highest peaks of the Himalayas in a place called the Valley of the Flowers, there grew tiny sapphire treasures, twinkling like the most fragile living things on earth. After performing long austerities in this valley, Tapasvini was granted permission by the plant devas to collect as many flowers as she needed for Damayanti's dress. Now the flowers came alive in blossoming sapphire sparks, more luminous than any stone crystal. Laced in her hair was a charmed orchid, which was a gift from Maya's garden of illusion. The orchid changed colors depending on the mood of whoever was gazing at its petals. 1 minute the flower was platinum violet, then it was briefly golden magenta, before shifting to the sizzling pink. Like all of Maya's gifts, the orchid mirrored back to the viewer the shifting nature of the human mind. To every other spectator, the orchid might have possessed entirely different hues. Of course, today, no one gave a hoot about the deeper meaning of Maya's orchid. Its beauty was just one more accent to the show that was the enchanting princess of Vindabar. As for Damayanti's body, well, is it enough to say that her physique was so perfectly shaped as to make Indra, Yama, Agni, and Varuna ache with desire? Suppose not. Her long limbs were sculpted with feline strength, like those of a panther stalking her prey. Her waist and hips formed a sensuous balance of slimness and curvature, so as to inspire master artisans in their quest to sculpt perfect beauty. And if you want to be real for a minute, as she placed one foot after another on the step below, the place where most men's eyes remained glued were her breasts. Without realizing how or why, the opportunity to gaze at her bosom made the world seem free from all conflict. So it was a kind of medicine to the spirit of men to behold Damayanti. Today, as she reached the field of green grass, the princess set a mark for beauty that would live for generations in the memories of all races. But Nala saw only the pure, burning flame of her heart.
Beautiful. Beautiful. Very nice. One last question I want to ask you, Peter, and the obvious one. What do you want the reader to take away from this book?
What I'd like readers to take away is that the awakening of the divine feminine is very real in this world, and that when we practice a discipline like repeating a mantra, that we can hold power in our lives, that we can express in this world in constructive and healthy ways. So yoga is really a practical vehicle or tool to open our own gateways to love. And the story is, with the love story and the drama and all the different things that happen to the characters, it unveils the source of where yoga arose. And for people, for readers who roll out yoga mats around the country or wherever, or are just curious about love or their own spirit, what I'd like for readers to take away is a sense of, oh, I know how to do this. I can do this. And I can make this awakening of the divine feminine very real in my life and apply it in my life.
Speaking of yoga, and your first spiritual novel, do you have any plans to continue writing?
I do. Actually, I just got back from India a little over a month ago, and I almost completed my second novel in this trip. So it was very exciting, and I'm hoping that I can finish this one before going to India again. So this second novel is set in Cambridge, Massachusetts, and it's a more contemporary time, and it's about a yoga teacher who opens a yoga studio and attracts a wide cast of different yoga teachers and experiences. Well, his quest is to experience liberation through sexual union and through the exploration of Tantra. So it's really a more visceral tantric novel.
And where can we find your website?
Well, it's hotcoreyogapress.com. The book is available on Amazon in ebook, softcover, and also audiobook. And I do the reading of the narration.
Well, I look forward to more from you. I enjoyed reading the book, and I want to thank you for writing about such important topics, the spiritual, the relationships, and what have you. That's obviously so timely today, and you took it from a wonderful source. So, again, thank you for what you've done, and come back and talk to us again and tell us what you're up to.
I'd love to do that, John. And, for me, writing The Secret of Enduring Love fulfilled a lifelong dream. When I graduated from college back in 1983, my one dream was to write a novel of spiritual truth. And so to do that is a wonderfully gratifying experience. And I hope to keep on writing. And I'm also now getting beyond teaching classes in my yoga studio here to offering tantric workshops and also hot core yoga posture clinics. So it's really an exciting time for me.
Wonderful. All right. Well, again, do come back to us, and thank you for being with us. And I'll say enjoy your day. Thanks very much, Peter. I appreciate your taking the time.
You're very welcome.
All right. Have a good day.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye. And we will link to Peter Sklivas' website at achieve4yourself.com. And when you visit the website, make sure you leave your email address in the box provided, because we'll use that information to keep you updated on upcoming show content, scheduling, and guests and the like. Blog posts in the Genuines blog will include this type of information. Of course, any other updates that are connected to the show. So I'd like to mention those things, as well as where you can find Achieve for Yourself, and that list is growing now. I think I've already mentioned that you can hear the show on Stitcher, iHeartRadio, and a growing list of platforms, and so we look to keep growing the audience for Achieve for Yourself. It's good to have you with us, and I'm afraid that's going to be it for today. That's all we have time for, so I will just say be well, and I will talk to you soon.